Hi everybody, I'm Bill Sanders and this is Watch Art Side, the art and science of watch collection. What I'd like to do today is to take a look at the exceptional horology. This is sort of beyond high horology, and these are some of the best watches, the best watchmakers, and take a look at what may be a possible entry level. Now, some of these entry levels are ridiculous. I mean, they are very high. I'm not saying the watches aren't worth it, but rather the whole notion of an entry level sort of gets lost in some of these prices. Now, if we just take a look at the Holy Trinity, and these are the ones we're talking about are somewhat above this, is that what we can call entry level in Audemars Piguet is a Royal Oak, around 25,300. The Vacheron Constantin is a little more complicated. I think they have one that they came out with that was, what's it called? The 56, I think. They have one model of the 56 with a different kind of movement in it that doesn't meet the standards of the Geneva seal. And it's around $12,000. It's really a good buy, and it's a good watch, but I just thought, well, if I put that in, people would say, cry foul. So I'll put in what is one of their standard entry-level kinds of watches. The Patrimony, it's in pink gold, $20,100. And for the Patek Philippe, Calatrava rose gold, $30,750. These prices are crazy. So anyway, so even with the Holy Trinity, which is sort of represents some of the lower end of crazy highness, let's take a look. Now, the first watch I'm going to take a look at is a Gronfeld 1941 Principe. This is a beautiful watch, and the price, so to give you an idea of where we are right now, when this came out in 2018, it was, the list on it was $31,775. Still a lot. I mean, that's a lot of money anyway. But now it's in 2022, the list price is up to $41,000. By the way, too, some of these I put a little the Grand Prix. Either they were part of what's called now called the nomination or the official pre-selection. This was one of them. So, I mean, a lot of these watches have won or come close to it. Okay, this next one is another interesting one. F.P. Journe Chronomatsuring Havana. Now, it used to be the entry level was what was called the Chronomat Blue. And it was same movement and pretty much the same watch, except it didn't have the power reserve indicator, and it had tantalum case instead of a gold or a platinum case. This one is 18 karat gold, 40 millimeter, caliber 1304. This is the same caliber they've had for quite a long time. Now this one is now almost $40,000, 39,600. A few years ago, it was around 25, was roughly the entry level. I have one of these. I got mine in platinum, and it's just an incredible watch. But the price now, what I'm seeing is a lot of watches I was able to get at just a few years ago, and I couldn't afford now, including this one. So, but anyway, it's a beautiful watch. The next one is Wooten Lannon. Wooten Lannon's watches are another brand of watches that I really like, but I can't afford it. $74,000 for, I'll call it entry level. There's the movement that was in a watch called the Venge 8, and this is one of the variations on that called the 28SC. In the lower right, you can see the movement. It's got one of those nice big balance wheels. And another thing that you're going to find is you're going to find lower frequencies, 18,000 semi-oscillation per hour, 21,600, or 2.5 or 3 hertz. some of the other ones, most of the more common hertz is higher, up at 4 hertz. And I prefer the lower hertz for lots of reasons. Apparently, people who make these expensive watches do too. Now, this next watch is sort of an interesting story behind it. Lang and Hein. Until 2018, the Lang of Lang and Hein was sort of the main watchmaker, the movement, the creator behind the whole company. Hein was with him for 1 year, and the next, he was almost 15 years, I guess. Marco Lang ran the company, and he made a series of these really beautiful movements. And one here that's shown here in the lower right is the caliber 6. He also made a movement that for UWD, Uhrenwerks Dresden, and this was to be sold as a movement that people could buy and create their own watches for their own watch company. There's one in Munich called Letter or something like that, that has that same movement. Their watches with that movement, except with the small seconds instead of the center seconds, sold for like I think 7,000 or 8,000 euros, something like this. Well, what Lang and Hein did is that they came out with this watch called the Hector. It's stainless steel and a stainless steel bracelet to it for $14,941, roughly $15,000. And they took the original 33.1 that Marco Lang had designed, and it's still a beautiful design, and they simply moved the small seconds from 6 o'clock, and then they changed it and put it into a center second. And they came out with, this is their new entry level. But another way of looking at the entry level, if you look at the movement, the caliber 6, which is, and you can just see looking at the two movements, there's something different going on. Both of them are incredible movements, by the way, and they're beautiful, but they're not quite the same. The caliber 6 is 18,000 semi-oscillations per hour, and it has what's called a trigonal bridge, and that opens up so you can see most of the movement. And then looking at the balance cock, you have this engraving, and then on top of the shaft for the balance wheel is a mined diamond. It's not a man-made diamond. So there are two ways to look at this. You can sort of, the entry into the high of the exceptional horology is around 27,500, and the entry level into Lang and Hein about 15,000. Both of them, for very different reasons, I think are really incredible watches that most people would like to have. Again, $15,000 as an entry level only makes sense when you look at a Vout and Lana with an entry level of 70,000. Now, Laurent Ferrier has a certain type of watch. I just really like his watches. This one is called the Classic Origin Blue, 3 hertz, 21,600 VPH. And he has very clean style and makes some really beautiful watches. My one complaint, I suppose, is that he seems to have a lot of plates on the back, and so you can't see very much of the movement. But it's really a beautiful, I mean, it's the kind of thing that you find in your exceptional watches. Now, another one, this one is another favorite of mine, MB&F for, I forgot, MB is Martin's and Friends. And so you always have a lot of different people working together on MB&F. Here is the really interesting watch. It's called LM101, which is the movement and double hairspring. Now, the double hairspring comes from H. Moser et Compagnie, and their double hairspring is one that is They used to have them on what was called the Henry. I have one, and they're fantastic. But the double hairspring was a very expensive one to put in, because having to engineer these two hairsprings uh, around above and below the balance wheel it was a very difficult thing to do, and therefore was expensive. Well, I think this one solved it by the entry price was 53,000 Swiss francs. Really an incredible watch, but again, this is one of the tough things, is to break into it. And if you look at the pre-owned market, you don't have much better luck with this particular watch. Now, here is a really interesting company. It took a while for watch lovers and watch collectors to catch on to H. Moser. Now, before they caught on to H. Moser, I was fortunate enough to get two of them, and you used to be able to go to a secondary market and find a brand new one for a great price. You can't do that anymore. Both of these, I think, have waiting lists, as a matter of fact. But what H. Moser did is that they came out with a movement called the HMC 200, automatic movement, 3 hertz, with hacking seconds, and a minimum of 3 days. You wind it up and off you go. It'll be good for 3 days. And it has a Straumann hairspring with a flat overcoil. By the way, too, a lot of these watches, and that we'll never know about, have the Straumann hairspring by H. Moser. And well, they have a branch called Precision Engineering that makes that, but they sell about 60,000 hairsprings, but only make about 2,000 to 3,000 watches a year. So some of these other ones, the only one that anybody knows for sure that uses their hairspring is MB&F. Now here, what they did is that you go from roughly around 13 and 14,000 for the Pioneer Center seconds and the Heritage Center seconds, and then you go up to 20,000 or more. But that's okay. I mean, this is, if you're talking about an entry level into a top rated watch company or watch type of watch, this is a pretty good one, I think. I've always liked H. Moser, but these are good buys. Now these are these are retail, manufacturer's suggested retail price. So you have something. I say, well, I'll check out the secondary market. You're not going to find them on the secondary market. It used to be the case, but not anymore. I think H. Moser has taken some smart moves. Now this next one by Romain Gauthier, the Continuum Titanium Edition 1. Romain Gauthier is one of the top watchmakers in the world, really an incredible watchmaker. And this particular watch for $37,000 is sort of like, this is his entry level, because some of the other ones, they quickly go up over $100,000 for one of his watches. And this one was sort of, I would probably classify it, especially since it comes with a rubber band on it, as pretty much of a sports type of watch. And it's got the crown up at 2 o'clock, just to keep it out of the way from getting banged around. Flip over in the back, and it looks very much like some of his other movements and how he does them. One of the things, this is I think the only one we've seen so far that does use a 4 hertz, 28,800 semi-oscillations per hour, hand wound too. Most of these, with some exceptions, are hand wound. That's one thing you're going to find. Your top watches tend to be hand wound. I have on a Urban Jurgensen, and it's a hand wound watch. Okay, now the final watch you can take a look at is a Jaime Asoko Tsunami. I just love this watch. I really do. And you flip it over and you look at the back and look at the size of that balance wheel. Just kind of wonderful watchmaking that I love to see. Now this one is 37 millimeters, just a little small for me, but I wore 37 millimeters for a long, long time, so it's not too small, just a little smaller than I like, but that's okay. It's not a bad size. The caliber was, I think his name's Tsunami, and this is Jaime's entry level watch, 26,700. This would be a watch I wouldn't mind saving for. I really like this watch a lot. 18,000 semi-oscillations per hour, 2.5 hertz. Okay, those are if we can thinking about entry level. If you want to go to this level of watch, these are sort of, you might say, the doors, but they're more like, palace gates with a moat with an alligator in it to get to that level. There are other things that collectors are taking a look at in order to have this, super high horology and something that they can afford. We might talk about that at a later date. In the meantime, I'd really like to hear your comments and what you think about all of this. And also, it's an opportunity to subscribe if you like. Anyway, till next time, this is Bill Sanders for Watch Art Sci, the art and science of watch collection.